Welcome to the Existential Empath Podcast. My name is Tanya, and I am an intuitive empath. My intention is to share valuable tips, tools, and techniques that I have learned so you can tap into your own inner healer naturally and intuitively. Welcome back, everyone. Today I have guest Suzanna Kennedy. Suzanna is a public speaker and empowerment leader who has taught thousands of people how to make conscious, healthy choices and to take aligned action with their soul's purpose. She is the creator of Reality Crafting 5.0, a technology that initiates one's ability to see through illusion and master their thoughts and emotions. Suzanna is now living her dream life of running a global heart-based business while living on the beautiful island of Kauai, Hawaii. Welcome, Suzanna. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Yeah, thank you. Aloha.
Yes. And so you and I, we're going to talk about emotional mental detoxing. And I share a variety of information on my show about how to heal the mind, the body, and the spirit. And so, most people are aware of the benefits of physical detoxing, but they don't often think about the importance of mental and emotional detoxing. And so, Suzanna, you've been helping people for more than 20 years through a process called Emotional Mental Detoxing, or EMDetox. Can you share some more information about what EMDetox is and the importance of us taking a more multidimensional approach toward our healing and our transformation?
Yeah. Well, the Emotional Mental Detox program is, it's 6 sessions. I deliver them in a guided meditation type style, but there's so much more than that, what we're doing here is releasing the mental part and the emotional part. Well, it's all integrated. We're doing it together. That's why I call it multidimensional, because it's working on your mental body, your emotional body, your physical body, your spiritual body. And then it goes into, we are so much more than who we are in this body. And we've had so many experiences throughout creation, and we carry those memories in our DNA. Mm-hmm. And so when we clear with the emotional mental detox, we are clearing all of our experiences that are related to, the session that we're working on throughout all time, all dimensions, all realities, all consciousness.
We're bringing a lot of cosmic baggage with us into this life, aren't we, Suzanna?
Exactly. And so by working with it all together, nothing can squeak away and get out of the love, that field that we create. So some programs work just with the emotions. Some programs work just with the subconscious programming. The reason I see that we have to work with them together is because they're tied together in our cellular memory, and we can get triggered emotionally, but the memory of it and where we go back to when we're triggered, we go back to the past trauma, that's in our mental body, that's in the mind. So working with this together, we can really create permanent change and anchor it in. So the EM detox helps to get rid of your past programming. So if you know Bruce Lipton, he talks about the subconscious, and that we create our self-identity in those first 7 years. And then we just keep playing out that self-identity. And so it clears all of that out, because it's really a false identity. It's the identity we created to play this game in the world, or it's the identity we created to learn how to navigate this world. But it's not who we really are. We are love in a body. And so anything in your mind, anything in your self-identity that is telling you that you're anything less than cosmic love in a body is false. It's false programming. So now that we're moving into this new reality that we're ascending into, that we're going along with Mother Earth and ascending into, to get rid of the old programming and all of the emotional baggage that was created because that programming created events in our lives. There's emotional baggage, there's trauma memories that we haven't cleared from our cells, from our energy field. And so we clear that out so that we can start fresh. You can't create anything new from the old programming.
Yeah.
And the environment that we're going into, we're not even going to be allowed to take some of that limited programming and that dense
energy.
pain and trauma into that area, into that environment, into the 5D and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
So clearing it out gets us back to our essence, our true self, that, the love in a body. And so that's like the first step in being able to master consciously creating your own reality, is to get rid of the false programming and all the pain that it caused you in the past. And then you're a clean slate, and then you can consciously create. Because as Bruce Lipton said, 95% of the time we're in our old programming. We're running on default.
Mm-hmm.
So
and nobody's
we
got
want to
time
create
for
a
that.
new world, but how can we with the old programming?
Exactly. And so, Suzanna, you've been working with, people to reprogram their subconscious minds, working with their emotional bodies as well before Bruce Lipton even started bringing out some of his groundbreaking work. I'm a huge fan of Bruce and Greg Braden, all of those guys. I think they're amazing. And so can you share a little bit about your connection with Dr. Lipton? Because I see that you kind of have a story there with him that I think the audience would love to hear.
Well, like you said, I started doing this work before I discovered him and before he wrote his book and he became popular. So, because this program was kind of divinely inspired, it didn't come with a lot of how to or explanation about how it works or why it works. So I just went on guidance. I experimented with my friends, and it worked so well. And then they referred people to me, and it just started growing. But if somebody asked me how and why it works, it's like, but then he came along, and with his book, The Biology of Belief was the first one I read. And he compared the subconscious mind to a computer, and which was great for me because before I started doing this work, I was an instructional designer in the corporate world, and I was teaching computer not programming.
Wow.
I was teaching about custom computers and whatever. So, and when I had my spontaneous awakening, and I could see my programmed self. I could see it as a program. Mm-hmm. At the same time, I became aware of the vastness of me and the vastness of all of us, that love that we are. And I could see it as a computer program. So when he used that analogy, it was like, oh, that is right on. I can run with that. So that helped me to explain things. My program didn't need to change because of it. I just had a way to explain why it worked. And then I was invited to be a speaker at the same event that he was going to be the keynote speaker. So we met in Denver, and I, went up to him and I asked him, what would it take for you to be willing to review what I've done so that, maybe you would recommend it. And he, what a beautiful being. So he, at that time, and this was like 2009, I think, it was all in a CD kit. And I had it, in a little box, and he put it to his heart and he closed his eyes and he did that. And then he said, call my secretary and have her put you on my resource list.
Wow.
So since that time, I've been one of the practitioners that's on his page to, and so like almost all of my clients have come through that referral. And then just in July 1st to the 4th, I went to join him in Mount Shasta. He was doing a retreat. And again, we connected. I thanked him for all the people he'd sent to me through the years. And his response was, oh, that's great. How can I do more? How can we make it better? How can we make it bigger? So we're talking about doing a video together, and getting on his schedule is
it's the hard part, right?
Yeah. But yeah, so we're going to be doing that together. So yeah, that's my story with Bruce Lipton, is, just great gratitude for the connection.
That's amazing. And I do feel when we are aligned like that, we will naturally come together. I felt like that. I went to an energy healing conference in Utah, and I had been studying Donna Eden's work. She's an energy practitioner. And I had set the intention before going that I wanted to meet her. It was something that I wanted to do. I thought it would be amazing to connect. And I got there, and some people said she's not coming, to this. She couldn't make it. Her daughter had a child, and there was all these things going on. And then as the course of the day went on, she showed up, and I was like, oh, and I waited in line to see her, and I told her my story, and she says, Tanya, I feel like I was guided to come here to meet you. I felt drawn to come. And she goes, and my granddaughter's name is Tanya. And I'm like, no, like it just was a very synchronistic event for me. And, I knew that we were meant to meet. And it sounds like you and Bruce were definitely meant to meet as well. And it's really neat. It sounds like you're all a part of the same soul tribe, which is just fascinating in itself. And so, Suzanna, you've created a reality crafting technology that initiates a bit of a ripple effect for people to help them master their thoughts and their emotions. It's called Reality Crafting 5.0. Would you like to share a little bit about what that technology is and how it came about?
Yeah, well, again, just the name of it is multidimensionally. So there's a lot of layers to it. So it's an overall system to take somebody by the hand and move them through a transformation, which includes clearing out the subconscious programming and then bringing more of their higher self to actually express through the body. So embodiment. And then when your soul is fully embodied, and when it's shining through your heart and radiating, your soul purpose, your soul mission starts to unfold, because you're going to attract whoever you need and the resources you need to fulfill it. And then along the way, you're also when you clear that old consciousness and you clear the old stuff, then your conscious creations have no resistance. So what you want to manifest is not resisted. It's just there. So it's instant. And so a reality crafting session that I would do with somebody would be, you tell me what aspect of your life you would like to upgrade. And the way I see it when I'm working this way with people is that we have our reality is like a bubble. It's a sphere. It's a hologram. And so there's the big sphere that is your reality with your event horizons at the edge. And then there's all kinds of bubbles, in that, and
Potential bubbles in there, right?
potential
Potentiality.
bubbles. And, there's memory bubbles. There's all kinds of things in there that you can actually, because it's holographic, you can take one out and work with it, upgrade it, and then put it
Very
back
cool.
in. And
Yeah.
that's when it ripples to make the changes in the rest of your reality that align with that new aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
that's
neat.
a reality crafting session.
That reminds me of, when sometimes when I've worked with clients, I'll see the Akashic record as it's like a library or not library. I'll go in and pick out a book and pull it
Right.
down. And that's what it reminded me of. It's like everything is out there in the quantum field for picking. It's just a matter of tuning your intention, tuning your focus to what needs to be picked and drawn a little bit of attention to. So that's really neat that you can do that. I love the analogy of the bubble because I think people can really kind of wrap their mind around that a little bit.
Right. Well, and then the other thing that seems, to make this work so much better than a lot of other things is um, to notice. So when you take this bubble, say you're working on your relationship, and you get into the sense that it's already the way you want it. It's just, you're loved, you're respected, you're honored, you're pampered, you're cherished, and you feel all of that. And that's the new, that's what we're going to create, but that's not how it's been. And so how it's been has been your beliefs and your patterns and your programs and your unexpressed emotions from past relationships. So that's what I call the resistance. So we capture all the resistance energy in another sphere, and then we neutralize it with infinite love. We bring it into 0 point. 0 point is no form.
Mm-hmm.
It's raw creative energy. So you raise the frequency of the resistance until it's infinite love. And now, as infinite love, it's the creative energy, the creative juice, the fuel for your new reality. Then you put it together. So instead of having resistance energy, you have creative energy that fuels it. And then we anchor it in. And then that's when it ripples out to shift whatever it needs to shift in your reality to have that take form.
Wow, that is so neat. I'm getting a visual in my mind of like a murky bucket of water, a fish in there trying to swim, trying to see, and having to put that fish in another, cleaner water bucket to dump that out, clean it out, put it back in, and then it's just racing around in that fish bowl or in that bucket. It's just, we get caught up in that murkiness of those belief systems and those emotions and those subconscious programs that we have, and we can get caught up in that. And once we can release those, clear those, draw attention to them too, right? So you seeing the resistance. Okay, I observe you. I see you, resistance. I see what you've been doing to me. Let's honor that, send it some love, and then open ourselves up for more energy to come through from a higher frequency coming through. And, I've had guests, actually, this has happened to me several times. I call it, I did a show on this. I called it walk-ins, like during an awakening. I had this when I turned 40. I changed significantly. And I, at the time, was embodying my higher self. I was really bringing in more of that. I went to bed the night before my birthday, woke up that day of my birthday, and I was a completely different person. This happened again just a few years ago. And I truly believe it's because I was releasing those older versions of myself and embodying that more higher version, of me to come in. And people were recognizing that. They were like, who are you? You're a lot different now. And so I can kind of see what you're doing with your sessions. It's just, honoring that version of you, letting it move on, and then bringing in the energy of a new higher frequency. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Well,
powerful.
yeah, I had a similar experience to
Did
that.
you?
And
Would you like to
yeah,
share?
I've been integrating higher aspects again recently. It's kind of ongoing right now. It's accelerated.
Mhm.
So yeah, and that's, the multidimensionality of us is that we do exist on all these dimensions, all the higher dimensions, and we have life there, and we have expertise, and we have wisdom, and we have experience that we can bring here
Yeah.
and just use automatically.
Is I call myself a bit of a realm bridger, because I do feel like I can kind of get into the murky water, but then I can get up into the clear water too. And I think over the years I've learned to master this energy. And I know not everyone can do that, but it sounds like you can do that. Like there's some of us that have the ability to hold space in the denser energy. Doesn't like we want to hang out there all the time, but we can if we need to be there. And I've kind of learned that myself. I can feel almost what reality I'm in. I can feel a sense of what frequency I'm in. And I can also shift that too. I can say, oh, I don't want to be in this frequency, and I can sit with it, and then I can change that vibration within inside of me. And it's taken me a little bit of time to learn that, but now it's almost like automatic, that I can do it. And it sounds like you've been doing this for many years, and having that ability to also assist others in doing that is even more of a mastery when it comes to healing.
Yeah, well, that's why it's called Master Reality Crafting 5.0. So it's, you know, being the master, but also, helping others to master it as well.
Yeah. And so, Susanna, you talk about 6 core issues of program, or you call them programming errors, that we all have here when we're living in the matrix. Would you mind going over those and, very briefly, so we can all kind of have an idea of, what are we programmed with when we are born into this third dimensional reality?
Yeah, well, the programming errors first have to do with relationship, a lot about relationship. So the first session is clearing out all of the programming, all of the beliefs about men and male energy. And that includes the patriarchy, and it includes the patriarchal systems, any relationship we have with those, and our own male aspect, or our left brain, the masculine aspect of our existence, because we did grow up in a patriarchy. Masculine or men or mental energy, intelligence is valued over creativity, intuition, feelings, emotions. So for most of us, that male side of us can be very dominant and domineering over the second session, which would be the feminine. So if our feminine has been suppressed, then, and wounded, and afraid, we clear all that out so that the two can be equal partners. So that's the first and second session. And then the third is fear, anxiety, worry, and all the, and that works a lot with the inner child, because that's where a lot of the fear comes from. And so we clear that. And then the next one is around pain and sorrow and grief, sadness. So all that pain that we've carried from the events in our life that our subconscious programming created, right? And then the next one is judgment, guilt,
Shame.
blame, and shame.
Mm-hmm.
So the judgment part is the mental part, and the guilt is the emotional part. and they go together. So you're either judging yourself or judging somebody else, or you're blaming yourself or somebody else, where then that's the shame. So they go together. So again, emotional, mental,
I like
working
that. I like
together.
that. That's a great visual there with the emotional aspect and the mental. I like that. Thank you for sharing that.
Right, right. And they're all like that, but that one really clearly illustrates it.
Yes.
And then the next one is lack and limitation and separation. So they're in that sequence because they're in a sequence where we're, if you were to visualize an onion, you're going to take off the top layer and then the next layer before you go to the core. Because if you go to the core first, it's just going to upend everything. And that's when you get a healing crisis or something like that. So you want to do it gradually, moving toward the core, but the core of everything comes from the programming that we have of the illusion of separation. So lack is feeling separate from whatever it is you want. So that's the last one.
That's neat. Thank you for sharing those. I like that because I've done a lot of shows very broken up. We talk about the emotions in one, we talk about the mental in another, and the physical in another. But I like this concept because it is collaborating, between them, because like you said, it's very multidimensional in how we heal. Layers of an onion, you're peeling things away. Oftentimes we're focused on the physical because that's the reality that we're in. We're in a denser third dimension here. So immediately when we have physical symptoms, that's what we're honing in on. But we don't often realize that those physical symptoms have been manifested a long time ago in the emotional mental body. And so, like you and I, it's like now we've learned to go to the root cause. And sometimes it can even be spiritual aspects, too, the deeper you go, because it's all fractalized, right? And so I love this because the way that you're kind of sharing it is very easy for people, myself and others, to understand that everything is connected. We are all one, right? And everything is all cohesive like that. And so when we're looking at our healing, we've got to look at it like the layers of the onion and not get so beat up about it, that I'm working in the physical and it's not fixing it, well, maybe it's an emotional, mental, connection there that we need to look at.
Right. Well, from what I've seen is that when you do go to the core of what created it in the first place, that gives your body the ability to heal itself, or, because the physical symptoms, they're the messages that something isn't right. And, what I've seen with my clients, because I don't usually go in to do like a physical healing, I'm working on that other part. But what I've seen happen is, now that you've cleared that away, maybe something that you were doing in the past that didn't works, or a new doctor comes into the scene that has, the right diagnosis and the right treatment all of a sudden. So it allow you, until you do that, nothing really is going to work.
Yeah, it's like the beaver dam in the river, right? It's just the water's trying to find its way around it. But, if it's, that area gets cleared, it can kind of flow through there. And that's how I look at the meridians, in the body. It's like you have these blocks that could be emotional and or mental, that, it's really just learning how to look a little bit deeper into what's going on with us as divine beings, and looking at ourselves as divine beings, not looking at ourselves as just these physical bodies.
Right. Well, I'm glad you brought up the meridians, because I have the meditation that I have on my website that I give as a gift is called the Triple Flame Activation. And I always have people do that before they do an emotional mental detox session, because it uses the triple flame, which is divine love, divine intelligence, and divine creative power, the pink, yellow, blue flame together, and move it through the chakra core and the meridian system. So it clears out the meridian pathways before we go to do an emotional mental detox. Because then when I call up the stuff, and it's like,
Yeah.
Going on the computer and say, send me the files for, betrayal and abandonment and all of this stuff. So before we call up that stuff that's been hidden and suppressed, and it's multidimensional wherever it's at, when we call it up, it's going to move through the meridian system on its way out. And if you've cleared all of the meridians, then it just shoots through real fast. You don't have to re-experience the trauma that put it there. Mm-hmm. And that is what has made my emotional mental detox program so graceful, is that we do that first, and the energy just flows through. You don't have to remember it. You don't have to feel it. You don't have to process it.
Yeah.
You just breathe it out.
That's nice. That's very beneficial. Very beneficial. I mean, it's like with anything. It was almost like getting when you go to get a colonoscopy and you got to take that stuff before to clear yourself out. It's almost like, you're clearing out the those denser emotions, memories, energies, to allow for that energy to flow through much easier. And I'm going to jump on your website and do that for myself. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. And that's something that the triple flame does a whole lot of other stuff too, but and that energy, the trifold flame, that's been around for a long time, but to apply it in this way is unique to the emotional mental detox. And I connect you with your I am presence, your that authority within you in the triple flame, and that ensures that it's doing what it needs to do for you specifically. So that's what kind of customizes it to the certain person. And if you are, say, depressed and you need more energy, it will do that. If you're too hyped up and you need to relax, it will do that. So it's going to work for you. I advise people to do it after they've been in a group, to clear other people's energy. And so I do encourage everyone to get on my site and get that triple flame activation. It's free, it's a gift, and it has a lot of purposes.
Absolutely. That sounds great. I'm definitely going to do that. And for those of you out there, check out her website. So SuzannaKennedy.com. And Suzanna, you live in beautiful Hawaii. Okay. We were talking about this before we jumped on the show, and this is your dream. It was your dream to live there, and you created this reality for yourself. And, I did the same. I was living in Florida for about 20 years in this very autopilot type life. I was very stressed. I had a lot of anxiety. And I decided to make a decision to move across the country on my own. I wanted to live with this beautiful scenery, in my backyard. And I changed everything, that I had done. And it sounds like you have done that too. And so, you help people shift their reality. Maybe they're unhappy with where they live, their relationships, their love life, their money, whatever's going on in their life. And so, how does one create their own paradise, so to speak, their own reality? And that way they can, be happier and more fulfilled in this life that we are currently living here on Earth.
Right. Well, what you have in your reality now is a printout of your consciousness. So if you want to change the outside, you have to change the inside. So that's, the emotional mental detox program can do that. And then, you don't have that resistance to what you consciously want to create. But a lot of people try to do it backwards. They try to change the outer part without changing the inner part. And then, so say they decide, it's their partner that's the problem. They divorce that person, and I don't want to live here anymore, and they move, but they're going to just create the same thing somewhere else. Wherever you go, there you are. So
You get
if
another
you
partner
want to,
that's the same way.
yeah. So exactly, and that's why people are starting to understand about the consciousness and about their subconscious programming, because they're seeing these patterns in their life. So, and it's easier. It's easier to change yourself from the inside than to change all that other stuff, because that other stuff is there and it's going to cause the resistance. It's going to resist your changes and make it harder. But once you clear it first, then it's like the universe has to realign itself around you. And so then it makes things easier. And if you're going to make some of those changes, you might find you don't need to make those changes. But, and then for me, I had a similar experience with a sudden spontaneous awakening that changed everything at once. And my challenge at that time was I was feeling and perceiving what my life was going to be like, but it was like, how do I get there from
From A to
here?
B. Yeah.
I don't know how to do that. It's too much, and I don't know what even the first step is. So I would get overwhelmed and I would get paralyzed.
Mm-hmm.
So then I said, I had gone through this emotional mental detox myself. And so then I would say to my team, just give me enough guidance and enough energy to do what I need to do today to stay aligned with this creation. And so then that took away the overwhelm. It took away the paralyzation. I would do what I was guided to do in that day. And, it actually happened very quickly when you think of it. It took less than a year to move from Detroit, Michigan to, well, the first step is I moved to Sedona, Arizona.
That's a nice
But
stop.
yeah, so it was a great stepping stone for me.
Yeah, you're probably getting some good activations there too and balancing out your energy. Yeah.
Right. But but it all happened gracefully when I did it that way, because you're staying aligned with the new creation. And so all the resources of the universe are coming to support you. And it just makes it easy, a step by step, day by day kind of thing. And then boom, you're there.
Yeah. And I think the key word you keep bringing up is gracefully. I'll say, my experience, I had been working in healthcare for nearly 20 years in a very high-paced trauma environment. And I knew I was done with that. I just didn't know how to exit out. I was creating my business on the side, in my off hours. And I knew I wanted to be out of Florida. There was something guiding me to the mountains. I had been feeling that for many years. And one day I just woke up and it was like this light bulb went off and said, it's time to put in your resignation and it's time for you to move. And I thought, how am I going to do this? So I slowly just started packing up my things, because I knew my lease was up in about 5 months, Well, I went into my boss and said, I think I want to resign. I think I'm going to move across the country. And she looked at me like, what, you think? And I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think. So I gave like a good 3-month notice, which gave me some time to prepare and pack. And everything was very in alignment. Everything was falling into place. I moved across the country, and within a month I was locked in my bed. I couldn't move. I had so much fear overtaking me. I had quit my that job, that stable job I had had for 20 years. I moved across the country from sunny Florida to November in Washington State with snow and darkness. My entire body literally clenched up on me. And so I was following, I felt aligned. And then I felt like I hit a brick wall the moment I did it. But luckily at that time, I had these tools and techniques to be able to move through it. Had I had your meditation, I would have 100% done that. I think maybe that's what I needed, was to clear that out. But it was just this residual subconscious beliefs of not having a steady paycheck, not having benefits, not having any friends around that I knew, not having a support system. And everything was in my back. So I knew it was all support related, because what does our back do? Our spine, it supports us, right? And so had I not had those tools and techniques, it probably would have lasted longer, for me to get through that. But I'm not recommending anyone to do that. I'm recommending to do it, gracefully. If you want to go through a big transition, reach out to Suzanna. It sounds like she can help clear you on that. So that way you can move through it with ease and grace. And like I said, it was very easy and graceful. Everything fell into place until a month after, when all of that emotional, mental, I needed that EMDetox at that time, because it was bubbling to the surface and my entire body went into fight, flight, or freeze. And but yeah, I guess that was my journey. I learned how to lay in bed, muscle test, EFT tapping, work with my higher self. All of these other things came through. But going back to that time, I wouldn't want to relive that again. I think now I'm at a point where I have different tools that I can do to assist me in that. But yeah, you made a huge transition, and I did as well, but I was being very strongly guided to do it. And it sounds like you were too. And, just getting ourselves in harmony, right? In harmony to align to that frequency.
Yeah. And a lot of it is, about trust and surrender. So
yeah, I was surrendered. I couldn't even get up to go to the bathroom. I had to surrender to it all.
right. So but we're programmed not to trust.
Yes.
So you got to clear that out. That's part of the male detox is, all those programs that we have about who you can trust and who you can't trust, and, in what situation you can trust them. And, and then we have all these triggers, that we can clear out as well, because they take us into unconscious reactions instead of being able to respond consciously. So yeah, there's a lot that you can do to make a transition graceful. And I also don't recommend just, quitting everything and moving away and being there without any support. So that's why I did it, one step at a time. And I remember going to my boss as well and saying, this is what I want to do. And she said, Suzanna, just do one thing at a time, and what does it make sense to do first? Well, it made sense to do the divorce first.
Yeah.
And keep the job for a while until that's all, and then, and I was in a consulting firm, so it was easy for me to transition from an employee to an independent consultant and still have a financial support even after I moved for a while.
Yeah, that's nice.
And when I was in Sedona and started doing these, the EMDetox program for people, that just was, taking up my time, and it was supporting me so I could let go of the other.
And have that natural transition. And I think, for me, I had been prepared to quit this job for years. I knew when I went in that day, I woke up and said, okay, Tanya, if you don't do this now, it's now or never. They're going to suck you in and you're going to be here for a long time. So I knew that the job had to go. I just wasn't 100% sure where I was moving. And the funny thing is I had moved to Washington State first, and that's when I had all those back problems. But the moment I moved 20 minutes across the border to Idaho, boom, I was in alignment. I had moved to the wrong location, a very denser, heavier energy. So I knew I wanted to be in Idaho, but it wasn't working. But I was looking to Boise. I wasn't looking at North Idaho. And so then I moved to Spokane, which is just over the border, and it was not in resonance with me. And I knew it the moment I got there. It was like I went from this very peaceful, tranquil area in Florida, near beaches, to a city, and I just was like, what did I do? But it was funny because I knew I was out of alignment, because that's exactly what was going on, with my back. So I said, how do I get into alignment? And then I stayed there for a year, but I had healed myself, in that time. But the moment I moved over, it was like this whole thing lifted off of me. And I was like, oh, now I'm home. I feel that. I feel that. So I think too, listening to our body, our intuition, and, really feeling into that, not forcing it. I think I knew I wanted to move and I was forcing the move, but I wasn't doing it in the right location. And to think 30 minutes, you're like, oh, it's just a little shift. But living in Washington and living in Idaho are very, very different, so living in a city versus living in a countryside too, so that was my experience. And like I said, that was about 5 or 6 years ago. But had I had the tools that you just shared with us today, I think my experience would have been a lot different.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you came on the show today, Suzanna. I think this is going to help a lot of people out there who are going through this transition of leaving the matrix and, moving into higher versions of themselves. I know I have a lot of clients that say, I am miserable in my job. I am miserable in this. I don't want to be working this anymore. I want to be service to others. I feel this is, and I want to make the transition, but I don't know how to do it, So I think that starting off with the emotional mental detox is a good place to start. So where can you share a little bit about the services that you provide and how people can connect with you if they resonate?
Yeah. Well, my website is SuzannaKennedy.com, and that's Susanna with a Z.
Mhm.
And get the triple flame for sure. And then the Emotional Mental Detox is a program. You can do it yourself. I've got it in a guided meditation format, one session a week for 6 weeks. So in 6 weeks, you can move through it and clear that. So I also offer, if you want, sort of the added VIP version is to get the combination of the emotional mental detox and my reality crafting sessions. So you can do, and the way I set that one up is like every other week. So you do one emotional mental detox session. The next week we meet and do a reality crafting session. So then we're really laser focusing. The EMDetox clears out the old. The reality crafting session creates the new. And so we can do it that way. So then it takes 12 weeks, but by the end of that, you've created a whole new reality.
You're a new person after 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, some people feel like a new person even after the first session.
Yeah.
Clearing out all the stuff around male energy is big for most people.
That is huge. And, I've been working on that a lot myself as well, because I'm an Aries to begin with. I've got masculine energy already, and then I grew up in a family where my mom had a lot of masculine energy. My dad kind of played more of the feminine energy, there was a role reversal there, more passive, and so I kind of grew up with a mom saying, you don't need a man in your life. You're independent. You can do this on your own. And it's funny because I've started to harness in that feminine energy. And I was taking the trash down the other day. I got asked on a date at the trash at the dumpster. I thought that was hilarious because I'm like, and for me, it was just a cue from the universe saying, hey, look, what you're doing is showing results. Like, so to have here, I was doing a masculine thing. I guess some would call taking out the trash a masculine thing, right? But yet I was tuning into feminine and I was, getting that feedback, from a male energy wanting to take me out. So I thought that was really funny. But I think when you begin to balance those energies, I actually noticed it. I had, at the time I had 2 cats. One was very masculine, one was very feminine. I could tell. And I started to balance these energies within myself. And I noticed my cats started having at it. They were fighting. And it was a role reversal that was going on. There was a harmonization happening. And in my internal reality, that was showing me in my external reality through my cats. And so I noticed as I started to move through this, the masculine one started to balance a little. And then the other one that was much more passive started to become more assertive and more. I thought, this is fascinating that this is happening. And so it is really neat when you work with the energy body, because you can see results very quickly,
Right.
Yeah. And that's the fun part of it is, it's just really being consciously aware of what's going on and watching the changes happen and, being open to allow them to happen.
Yeah. Well, in the first two sessions, we're with the male and the female energy, we're working with, releasing traumas around abandonment, the fear of abandonment, betrayal, and trust.
Mhm.
So when you clear those out, you become more confident in yourself, and you are better at articulating your boundaries, or even, first you might have to create boundaries because we
Yes,
don't
you're
learn
right.
how to do that, so creating healthy boundaries, and then gracefully, compassionately defending them if you need to. So that, I mean, just those first two sessions are huge, but then, we know that the inner child, all that fear, and then the pain from the past, so yeah, it really makes a big difference. And I have had people say, I'm not the same person that I was, but it's also a step-by-step guided, supported, so that you have somebody holding your hand through the whole thing, and that makes it more graceful as
It
well.
does. It does. Because when
And
you're,
because you're clearing, we're going to get cleared one way or the other with these high frequencies coming in. It's taking all the lower energies and it's putting it up into our consciousness. And so the choice is, you can work with it consciously, step by step, under your control, or you can let all this stuff create a drama in your life that you're going to have to face.
yeah,
And
I say
you'll do it that way.
you can choose to have Niagara Falls run through a straw or not choose that, right? Because
Right,
you have all
right.
this energy just blasting, through you. You'd rather do it consciously and gracefully than full throttle, because that's tough. And, a lot of the reason why I put this podcast together was to be able to share this because, you and I have gone through this and now we're here assisting others who don't have to go through it as intensely as maybe we have, so it's this, this teach, learn, teach kind of situation that we have going on that many of us are doing because, and that's what I said to my sister. I said, I don't want you to have to go through, to go through this the way that I did. And so, whether you take my advice or not, it's up to you. That's your free will. But yeah, so I love the energy that you bring, Suzanna, and all the things that you're doing in the world. And I really do appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing about the emotional detox, mental detox, and all of the other services that you provide. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. And I really enjoyed our conversation. It's fun to speak with somebody that has had real similar situations.
You deserve to navigate your life in alignment with health, happiness, and abundance. To learn more about the services that I provide, including Beyond Quantum Healing Hypnosis, EFT tapping, and the Emotion Code, visit my website at www.theexistentialempath.com.